and we're underway and racing. Stay on the brakes, goodness me, what a launch! The outside of turn 1 and takes the lead of the race.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Almost Pro Championship. We're here at Imola for the 4th round of the season. I'm Tom Dillon. I'll be taking you through all of the race commentary this evening. Alongside me, a little bit later on, will be Owen Boldero. He's just waiting in the ranks at the moment, waiting to get going here ahead of this race. He's had a few technical issues throughout the night, but he'll be providing insight regardless, as per usual, and we look forward to hearing what he has to say. So just waiting at the moment for the lobby to get going and to get everyone in to the race. Obviously, I wasn't here last week. The eagle-eyed amongst you may have noticed. That was my good friend and colleague Josh Birch taking over. But I have watched that race, and it was particularly interesting because the first time this season we really had a proper scrap for the lead that lasted into that final lap. And as I said, it was fascinating. It was Aaron Saka, who hasn't actually been here for the rounds of the season that I've covered, but jumped in to the Haas and really took the fight to Wongsawat Raveesri, who otherwise has been dominating the championship a little bit. We're just waiting, as I said, for the lobby to get going. I believe just waiting for everyone to be properly ready, and they'll chuck us into the game for 18 minutes worth of qualifying. Of course, Imola today, one of those very, very high-speed circuits. That's something we always keep an eye on at Imola. The DRS is particularly powerful, more powerful than around other circuits potentially. But also, there's been a few minor tweaks to the game over the last couple of weeks. I believe actually that the update released this time last week, and that pretty much just changed a couple of minor details, more to do with the offline sort of racing, but relevant for the online as well. And it'll be interesting to see drivers adjusting to that. We've got 10 seconds before we can get into the start of qualifying here, so being interested to see again how this one goes. Does anyone choose to work with their teammates? We've got 12 people on the grid, which means not every single team is represented. Not every team that is represented has got 2 drivers. You question, are we going to be in a situation where teams decide to use each other in order to try and potentially get those slightly faster qualifying laps on the board? Certainly in the F1 games, the track gets a little bit better towards the end of the session, so these early laps potentially going to be slightly more relaxed runs just to get something on the board, but overall qualifying around this circuit doesn't necessarily matter. Overtaking happens at such ease. 30 seconds, by the way, that's the countdown. It's just doing all the behind the scenes thing and booting us into the lobby. So we welcome everyone who's watching along on YouTube, who's watching along on Twitch as well. We are over on both of those platforms, though YouTube has kind of been the focus this season. But anyway, 5 seconds now to go before we can get into this qualifying session. Then we'll take you through all of the championship standings and everything like that as well, because last week saw Wongsawat Raveesri increase his championship lead ever so slightly, and that has been a running theme throughout the course of this championship. Has been Wongsawat Raveesri just going so well so far as we've made our way through, and I wonder if that's going to be the case here as well. Here is the circuit then. We are out onto the circuit, and there has been no movement early on in this one. We've already got 17.5 minutes on the clock. You can see all of the crowd models in the corner, but so far no one has chosen to get out on to the circuit. Everyone just applying their setups and things, and there we go. We've got one of the RBs, I believe the only RB, the Toro Rosso RB, whatever you choose to call it. And it's the best in-game name. It's Michael Towers, who makes his way out on to the track for the first time this evening. Getting himself nicely in position for this one. And interestingly as well, there is a little bit of a chance of rain. We've not got the precise weather forecast out there this evening. Instead, it's the imprecise one, and there's about a 10% chance of rain as we go on throughout the course of the evening. So we'll wait to see whether that materialises. We've had, if I'm not mistaken, we had a little bit of rain intervention earlier on in the season. I'm not sure. I think no, Australia was. I think it was safety car intervention. Excuse me. Anyway, Michael Towers will be the first to cross the line, and the first to set a lap. Aaron Saka, he's the main man really from the last race, the one who impressed us quite significantly here. He's got no notes for me, and so I can tell you that actually that was his debut last time out, and clearly proving to be a particularly quick driver. So keeping an eye on his progress throughout the course of the race as well. Aaron McGurk, another driver who potentially hasn't been as high up the order as he would have wanted to be so far this season. He's at the moment making his way around the final couple of corners to start his qualifying lap. Let's ride on board with our first qualifier then of Michael Towers. He hits the brakes hard down into turn 1, 4th gear, runs it through the corner, nice and aggressive on the throttle. You really can be. There's an adjustment made for this 2024 game. You used to have to be so careful on the throttle. Now you can absolutely be as aggressive as you want, and you can see straight into that hot lap mode. Of course, he's purple in the first sector, 3rd gear, as he makes his way through the first hair, which I believe is named Toaster. I forget my Imola corner names every time we visit here. Makes his way 6th gear through the next left-hander, flicks left, traffic gets out the way nicely, but Michael Towers has invalidated as he makes his way up the hill and up through Acqua Minerale. And that is the end of his lap. So it was a short-lived qualifying lap. We'll go to a man who's been very exciting throughout the course of his short career so far. Into the hairpin he goes. Nice early apex. This looks quite significantly faster. We'll see if it was just a one-time thing though. Overtake up the hill into the fast left-hander. 5th gear again, just aggressive on the curb. Careful not to invalidate on the right-hand side. And Alisawa goes down the hill into Acqua Minerale for the first time in this session. A little bit of a snap of oversteer, but he seems to be just about okay, does Aaron Saka. He knows this early qualifying lap isn't particularly important, but definitely going to give him the indicator of where his pace might be against some of those people that he's battling today. Potentially, I was going to say Wongsawat Raveesri, but he's not here on the grid as Aaron McGurk goes in to pole position. Makes his way up to the line. Does Aaron Saka. And it's not pole position. He's about a 1/10 of a second off in that first run. Slightly frustrating for him. So I've just pressed the wrong button slightly embarrassingly. I'm trying to bring you up your driver's standings. And here they are. Wongsawat Raveesri at the top of the order on 70 points. Ahead of Andreas Enkshavan, who's been very good this season. Lewis Smith was your season 6 champion, if I'm not mistaken. He's in 3rd position at the moment, and genuinely has been doing a pretty good job. As I said, Wongsawat Raveesri's not here. I'm talking nonsense. He's up into pole position, so excuse me for that. Didn't see him on the timing tower a moment ago. But Ethan Shackleton in 3rd, and then Aaron Saka with that impressive fastest lap and 2nd place. Last time out, he's up into 5th. So pretty decent stuff from him, and maybe a championship contender as we head on throughout the rest of the season. As for the team standings, has maintained being out in front, but with only one driver signed up for the rest of the season so far. If you are interested in joining the league, by the way, I believe it is a revolving door, so you're more than welcome to go to the links in the description below. But Haas at the top, Ferrari their main contenders, Alpine been looking very strong, Williams, Sauber as well. But in terms of the championship fight, definitely between those top 3. Everyone else just a little bit further behind. So we'll go back down on to the circuit and have a look at the timing tower. It's Wongsawat Raveesri at the top of it at the moment, as perhaps expected. This is his in-lap, and makes his way around that final corner into the pits. Probably a decent time as we look at Sam Burkett as well, making his way around on his in-lap. Probably a good time to bring in our expert waiting in the wings of Owen Boldero. Owen, welcome back to the stream. Nice to see you again. First of all, it's a good job that you are here. But welcome along, and we'll ask you what we always ask. What strategy implications do you normally see at Imola? A one-stop, I'm going to imagine.
Hello, Tom. So first of all, can you hear me? Is my audio okay?
We can
Is
hear
the
you.
first?
We can hear you for sure.
Yes. Okay, good. So the technical difficulties I've managed to fix, good. So in terms of strategy, Imola is fairly bog standard. You're going to see a lot of medium to hard or hard medium, although degradation on the mediums is very, very high, whereas on the hards, it's very, very low. It's a very, or at least for me, it's a very strange bar. So, like, I find when I've done league races here at Imola that my tires would be on like 50% after like 10 laps, and the strategy expects you to do about 13, 14 laps on those mediums, but the hards will go much, much longer than that. So I reckon we're going to see some drivers try maybe a little bit of an early undercut, go in like lap 9 or 10, just because of how great the fall off on those medium tires is. So I definitely think it's worth the undercut. But if not, they'll probably box about lap 13, 14, as the strategy would say, if they're on mediums. And if they're on the hards, then probably around lap 20 is what we'll roughly see in terms of strategy.
Speaking of medium tyres, thank you, Owen. We'll come back to you in a little bit's time. But speaking of medium tyres, Kenny Singleton. Singleton? I believe that's his name. I still need to refresh my spreadsheet. We're not quite there yet. It's Kenny Salishk, excuse me, is at the moment in 9th position. My apologies, Kenny, for butchering your name once again, third week in a row. But he's on medium tyres and has had consecutive runs at the moment. All 3 laps completed on that current set of medium tyres. So not sure really what's going on there. He just about doesn't invalidate as he makes his way out of the Variante Alta and then down the hill into the final couple of corners here at Imola. We're all over the curb on the right hand side through the final corner. Swoops it round, and I wonder if this will be an in-lap or if he's going to finally set a reasonable lap time. It's a 1:16.5, so it's not horrendous. It's 5 tenths of a second off of the pace of anyone else in the field, but given the fact that he's on tyres that are probably about 5 tenths of a second of the pace of anyone else in the field, then you can't really blame him too much. We've got another couple of drivers who are on laps. This is Ethan Shackleton in the Ferrari, really hoping that with now all of a sudden Wongsawat Raveesri being the kind of solo runner for that Haas team, that he can really make up some ground, and Ferrari can make up some ground. And Ethan Shackleton has backed out of this lap, however, so not expecting blistering lap times from him. And Saka back out on to the track, just trying to get himself a decent gap to that Ferrari ahead. So not many people favouring the toe, which is interesting to see, given the fact that this is Imola and you can gain a good 6 tenths of a second from just being in that toe, I want to say. But here he goes, a little bit off the pace at the moment, just about a second for Aaron Saka, though he set that lap very, very early on, so we'll see what he can do to try and attack the lap time of Wongsawat Raveesri. Same thing for Senkovan, who makes his way through the first couple of corners, through Tomborello, then on his way into, if I remember correctly, the Villeneuve chicane here, left hand, right hand, and he's invalidated this one. So again, a track that is so tricky for the, it's a track that is so tricky for the invalidations, proves to be particularly tricky for Andreas Senkovan, and it's slightly frustrating. He needs to make sure he's out of the way here of Aaron Saka, who's gone purple in the first sector. So this, actually, we're right on board with it, could be a very, very impressive lap. He's just about not invalidated there as well. Through Acqua Minerale he goes. Left-hand side, just a little bit of a lock-up as he makes his way through to the apex of the corner. Decent amount of ERS to work with here as he makes his way up the hill into the Variante Alta, and he's 6 tenths of a second faster than where he was. He's purple in both sectors, but invalidates. And a lap that was otherwise looking to be borderline perfect is a lap that is going to amount to nothing at the end. And while Aaron Saka stays in 5th position, very, very frustrating. I don't think he has the battery charge in order to set another one. So this will be straight into the pit lane unless he does a call and back out. That is his second run of potentially 3 you try and get in these 18-minute sessions will be over. I'd expect here Andreas Senkovan to use those tyres for a second run. He invalidated very early on into his lap, so he should be able to get away with using those tyres for this second lap, as long as he's cooled them down correctly after that first run. Now makes his way through into turn 1, 5th gear through Tomborello onto the grass, just about saves it. That is a remarkable save from Andreas Senkovan, and he just about keeps the lap good as well, but it'll have lost him quite a lot of time. Can he make up for it as he makes his way up to the Sector 1 timing line. He can't. It's 1.1 seconds at the Delta. He's going to back out of it at that Delta as well. By the looks of it, he is. No ERS being deployed. And that is it. Wongsawat Raveesri also invalidated by the looks of things. He's into the pit lane. So that's the end of his second run. And in keeping up with the armada of... that's not the right word. Keeping up with the vast quantity of invalidations is Lewis Smith, who now pulls over to the side of the road in order to let the Williams through. He'll be making his way around. So the McLarens, we've been loving watching their progress throughout the course of this season. Unfortunately, hasn't been fantastic for them in terms of progress. They've been relatively towards the back of the field throughout the entirety of it. On board here with Adam Watson. He's lost connection to Owen very briefly, so hopefully we'll see him again in a... But yeah, this is Adam Watson, as I said, and just needs a little bit of time here. He's about 4 seconds off the pace. However, he does appear to be on controller, so you're not really holding it against him. It can be quite tricky to control these cars, particularly with limited amount of assists. And makes his way up into the Varianta Ultra. Just about keeps the car in check. It's a scruffy enough lap, but potentially going to be improving at the end of this one. Makes his way through those final couple of corners. And it will be into the pits. So, not the most amazing lap. As we take a look at Aaron McGurk, who's 0.4 of a second off it in the first sector. Lots of recharge going on at the back of that car. So I'm anticipating that potentially he's calling this particular lap a day with 4 minutes to go in the session. As I'm pleased to announce, I've just had a look at my my track map, and I will say that I'm glad to report that I've managed to get all my corner names completely correct throughout the course of this broadcast so far. And well, we watch Aaron McGurk make his way across the line. He's going to start another lap, hopefully here, with just enough battery charge to get around the lap as he makes his way into the first corner. Choosing to run 4th gear through here. He's one of 2 pole position contenders on a lap at the moment. The other one is Aaron Saka, who makes his way into Tamburello. Through he goes now, trying to repeat what he had in the hand in that first run, but he's not purple in the first sector. Makes his out of Tosa. Up the hill into turn number 8, 6th gear through there, and he just about runs it right to the curb on the right-hand side. And invalidates again through Akram Minerali. So despite his incredible pace, Aaron Saka just hasn't quite been able to truly put it all together in a run here in Imola. Will there be a difference for Kenneth Salish, who again is so far on the curbs, making his way through turn 8 and into Akram Minerali. This time doesn't invalidate, gets it almost perfect. This looks like it won't be a lap though. Difficult to tell. I thought he was maybe going a little bit slow, but in the end this will be an in-lap for Kenneth Salish. And everyone just waiting for that final run, really, as we have a look at Michael Towers making his way up into Villeneuve. Such a deceptive braking zone, this one. You flick the car in, hope it sticks. He's 3 times up on his best, but through Tosa is a little bit deep, just taking the karting line, albeit not intentionally. Right now he's tracking to make his way up into about 8th or so. There's not a great deal of speed carried through turn 8 down the hill into Akram Minerali. Needs to spot the braking point perfectly. He does just about, but the car absolutely steps around him. Now up into Ryan Alta, just aggressive on the curves without quite going over. He does go over, makes a bit of a mistake, does Michael Towers. It'll just about allow him to continue, though. It's not an invalidation because it's lost him time, if anything. After the final couple of corners, we'll follow him as he makes his way through here into that final corner. And now what's it going to be for Michael Towers? Makes his way up to the line. It'll be in the 16s. It'll be 1,000th of a second improvement. Not quite what he wanted. And that's very, very frustrating indeed. Here's Wongsawat Raveesri, who is trying to get around the track as quickly as he can, because I think what's happened here, unless his wheel has made a mistake and disconnected, his qualifying must be over now, because he's more than a minute away from crossing the line, I'm sure. So he lets a couple of cars through. And now it's a race to the line for Wongsawat Raveesri to try and get himself in gear effectively, ready to go, as Aaron Saka went into third, missed that on the timing tower, and then retires from the session. So he's given all he needs to give throughout this one, as Lewis Smith gathers himself up for one final run here. Should just about have enough time. $18 seconds. Lewis Smith will be making his way around that final corner. DRS ablaze, as Wongsawat Raveesri just ahead is going to give him a handful of tow here. This will be interesting, as all of a sudden Lewis Smith with the checkered flag in the air has got the tow of Wongsawat Raveesri himself. Is trying to secure pole position here. Andreas Senkovan will be the first to cross the line. I mean, he won't actually. He's at the back of this train. So we'll be keeping an eye on all three of them as they try and get pole position at the death here in Imola. It's been a fascinating, albeit a little bit slow, qualifying session. And our three contenders, as Wongsawat Raveesri is already a 10th of a second ahead, our three contenders are so close together. Andreas Senkovan, second position at the moment, but it's really Lewis Smith we're keeping an eye on. He's invalidated. He's out of the qualifying session. Lewis Smith will be taking no further part by the looks of things, though. Andreas Senkovan and Wongsawat Raveesri both still in it as they attack two at the line. Purple sector 2 for Raveesri as he just about gets Varianta Alta all but perfect. Now makes his way up to the final two corners here at Imola, and it's so perfect. Got to be so perfect. As into second position goes Ethan Shackleton. So now it's a Ferrari front row lockout that they are trying to secure, as here goes Raveesri up to the line. What's it going to be? It's a low 14. He improves by a 10th of a second. Up to the line goes Andreas Senkovan. He would have got pole position had Raveesri not set that final lap, but it's Wongsawat Raveesri on pole position ahead of Andreas Senkovan. And well, it couldn't have been much more of a tense finish than that. Everyone is now across the line. And that is your order then. Wongsawat Raveesri ahead of Andreas Senkovan, ahead of Ethan Shackleton. The all-exciting Aaron Saka on at the second row of the grid only. I'm just waiting for the game to kick into gear. There's confirmation there that Wongsawat Raveesri is on pole position. And there's confirmation again that it's Wongsawat Raveesri ahead of Andreas Senkovan, Ethan Shackleton in third, Aaron Saka and Aaron McGurk, your top five. It's Lewis Smith, Kenneth Salish, Sam Burkett, Michael Towers, and finally Carl Stewart Woodward, the rest of your top 10. So we'll be back to the track in a moment. Just got about 2 minutes or so while we wait for the game to get us ready to go. And oh, what an interesting session that actually turned out to be. Very exciting stuff. And you're watching, of course, APC over on YouTube and on Twitch as well. Not too long to go now before we are into this race. Expect it to run all of about 40 minutes or so. That's 4-0 for those who are unaware of how these 50% F1 races work. to that safety cars or anything. Of course, it might just about end up going best part of 45, 50 minutes. Depends on really how the drivers get along throughout the course of the race. In theory, they should remain quite clean. They do tend to be quite clean here in this championship, so expecting more of the same in that regard. And if anything, if last week is anything to go by, we should be seeing an unbelievable fight for the lead towards the end. Of course, last week very dramatic between Aaron Saka and Wongsawat Raveesri, who again looks to increase his championship lead after this one. As we get ready to go down on to the track for the start of qualifying session. This qualifying session, the race, the formation lap getting underway already. Carl Stewart Woodard and one of the other McLarens actually found themselves disqualified from the sessions. That's not ideal, lads, to start us off. Everyone seems to be choosing mediums here as well. So I've got a couple of bits of insight from the grave of Owen Boldero, who unfortunately won't be joining us for the rest of this broadcast because he's having a few issues at his new accommodation. So looking forward to seeing him next week now, unfortunately, but Owen has had to drop out due to some technical issues. We apologise about that and wish his internet a speedy recovery. But he says you can really stall an overtake here if you manage ERS well. But as well, that mediums drop off very fast, and it means there's a lot of siding through Sector 2. So the medium tyres seem to be the favoured ones. We've got one driver, Sam Burkett, on soft tyres. I don't really see the use of that. But other thing to remember, it's a very slow lap here, a very fast lap even. You're at full throttle. It's a typical Italian track. You're at full throttle for almost the vast majority of the lap. And means that actually, if your tyres are a little bit away from you, at DRS, those straights, as long as you've got the right setup, as in barely any wing, you should be just about okay. Here we go then. Not too far away from getting started. Everyone just lining up into their grid slots. Ready for the lights here at Imola. And it's lights out and away we go. And everyone gets away just about cleanly enough as they make their way down into turn one. A relatively short run, but it's Wongsawat Raveesri who gets the best of them into the first corner. There's a challenge from Ethan Shackleton on the inside line as he tries to make his way through. Andreas Senkovan, as there's a carbon fibre flying in the background. We've got caution already. Andreas Senkovan into second position. Will we have an early safety car though, as Ethan Shackleton now loses out to Aaron McGurk as well. Back to the outside he goes into the Tosa hairpin around the outside. He's into second gear already. Aaron McGurk on the inside line, just about able to squeeze through as the McLarens are tripping over each other already. We've got the hard tyre runner here of in-game name. Wow, I really have tripped over myself. But Adam Watson, as we see the strategy on the screen there. Adam Watson, excuse me, just about getting himself back going again. His teammates, which of course is Connor Stewart Woodard, is in 12th position already. Carbon fibre flying off of his car. I believe Sam Burkett has a little bit of wing damage as well off that first lap, but just ahead of him, he's watching Michael Towers trying to get ahead of the Alpine of Lewis Smith, and he can't quite do so already. Used 70% of his battery charge throughout just the first lap of this one, as unsurprisingly Wongsawat Raveesri sets the fastest lap of the race. He's already got 7/10 of a second ahead of Andreas Senkovan. It's Aaron McGurk with DRS enabled who's in at third position, but for how long? Ethan Shackleton looking at very good just behind him, or right on board with the Ferraris. Remember, they've got Teams Championship to think about as well, and that is a bad run from Aaron McGurk. Is going to give a freebie on the inside line to Ethan Shackleton, who squeezes his way through. Brave on the inside line, as already we see Adam Watson receiving a 3-second time penalty. So easy to do, as into the pits goes his teammates as well. And now just 0.3 of a second at the lead of the race. So maybe Raveesri's got a little bit too much downforce on his setup. With DRS enabled this lap, on lap 2 of 32. We're going to see a little bit of a battle for the lead of this one. It could change hands numerous times throughout the course of this race, and I'm fully expecting that. Into Variante Alta we go for the second time in this one. And all of a sudden, Andreas Senkovan is all over the back of Wongsawat Raveesri. Sam Burkett receiving a 3-second time penalty for his troubles as well through the final couple of corners. There's time penalties flurrying through, actually. But the battle for the lead is going to start here. DRS ablaze for Andreas Senkovan, who goes 2 seconds faster than Wongsawat Raveesri's first lap. However, that was in traffic and around the outside line. Will make short work of that one. Pretty simple stuff for him, actually. And now we look at this train. This is a bit of a DRS train. You expect to see this at Imola somewhat. There's Aaron McGurk just behind Ethan Shackleton. Aaron Saka and Lewis Smith all involved in this 4-car train. Michael Towers is a little bit further behind, but still just about involved. So is Sam Burkett as well, as you can see right at the back of this one, but already with that time penalty. Carl Stewart Woodard is the first driver who's not quite in that train. And he's got the Williams of Kenneth Salish just behind him, battling for the final 2 points positions between themselves. But as is Imola, this middle sector tends to be a little bit of a non-contest, as Wongsawat Raveesri obviously has no way through ahead of Andreas Senkovan. But down the straight, I'm sure that is going to change. We're right on board with your championship leader, ahead of his main championship rival, you would say. He's going to have DRS once again. And this time, Andreas Senkovan goes fastest once again. So as they make their way down into turn 1, you see in the background the battle forming as well. Wongsawat Raveesri happy to stay behind for the time being, and I'm not sure as we see a battle further behind with Aaron McGurk down the inside of Aaron Saka, who flies off the road and around. He makes his way into the gravel trap of all places, his teammate going through as well. Didn't see if there was contact there, but Aaron Saka, who was denied a victory last time out by simply the DRS on the final lap, is going to be denied victory this time round as far as it stands on just the 3rd lap, thanks to another DRS-related debacle, this time spinning around into the first corner, and that's frustrating for him. He goes into 10th position, final points-paying spot. But Wongsawat Raveesri, I think the interesting thing about that that we've just seen is that potentially he's now thinking of the long game, just staying behind, sitting pretty in the dirty air, albeit of that Ferrari ahead of him. And Michael Towers makes his way through as Sam Burkett is getting involved. Lewis Smith has had a disconnect. This is hugely frustrating. He's disconnected from the session, and that means his AI, for those who don't know, now going to take over. That allows Sam Burkett to get through. It allows Michael Towers to get through as well, and into 5th position. But penalties flying through here with just how difficult it is. We look back at the battle for the lead of the race. Wongsawat Raveesri on the inside line and through into the lead. Once again, so easy for him. Aaron McGurk wasn't quite close enough to make a move on the other Ferrari of Ethan Shackleton for the final podium position. Already on the 5th lap of this race, and already we've seen pretty much battles throughout the field as Carl Stewart Woodard now gets himself comfortably past Kenneth Shalisk, as we wait to see when Lewis Smith rejoins the game, as it's very, very awkward, has to go to the outside line. Lewis is so slow. I would say that this is certainly his AI at this stage, and well, it's such a struggle for him as he's now back to the very back of the pack, and actually won't be long before he gets chased after by Aaron Saka, who'll be looking to catch up very soon and just gain that extra championship point in his charge back through the order. But almost back to the end of another lap here at Imola, and it won't be long before we see the battle at the lead resuming. Through the final corner goes Andreas Senkovan, and then we'll ride on board with the Ferrari driver, as he's got probably not a great deal of ERS to use. He's got a fair amount, but so much straight line speed that this cat and mouse game that you so often play at Imola goes back in the favour of the Ferrari, and he chucks himself back ahead. We'll see if Aaron McGurk can follow suit in the same way as he did last lap. He similarly can't follow suit this lap. Sam Burkett and Michael Towers continuing to battle along, but again, there's not really a great deal in between them. And through the first couple of corners they go. With it not really becoming a desperate situation just yet for Sam Burkett, but I'd say those soft tyres will be falling off very, very soon. You probably only get about 8 laps out of a pair of soft tyres. We've got our first retirement from the race. It's in the pit lane, so it shouldn't require a safety car, but it is Adam Watson. The drivers make their way up the hill through Aqua Minerale. We can turn our attention back to the lead of the race, which is held by the Ferrari of Andrea Senkovan at the moment. And just as it was literally a minute ago, it's going to be Wongsawat Raveesri who tries to take the lead of the race back, and this will give us a great indication. He's saving a lot of ERS, didn't choose to use it last time, now deploys it quite greatly and to his advantage as well. Down the inside line and through. Waiting for that first pit stop window then really, as Sam Burkett now retires from the session in the pit lane, I believe thanks to all of his penalties that he received so far. Decided it was just worth coming in. We can now see the penalties. It's 3 seconds for Carl Stewart Woodard. Lewis Smith as well receiving a 3-second time penalty, and so has Connor Stewart Woodard in 11th position also received a 3-second time penalty. And you can add Ethan Shackleton to that list now, as his battling with Kenneth Salish has resulted in a 3-second time penalty. Kenneth in that slipstream, still not really able to find a way through. It's all about at this stage who manages those medium tyres just a little bit better. And so far, with Sector 2 going the way of Ethan Shackleton, looks like it's going to be, as oh no, more disconnect problems. And it's Andreas Senkovan this time. This is colossal in the context of this race, as through no fault of his own, Andreas Senkovan has disconnected from the server, and now his teammate is unleashed to get past him, and Wongsawat Raveesri is unleashed into the lead of the race. The only advantage to it is that his teammate now gets a good handing of DRS as they make their way down into turn 1. Will he even get that? I think he will, just about. No, he won't. So actually, all of a sudden, you've got Aaron McGurk trying to make his way through. 2-car overtake into second position. It's been rather gifted to Aaron McGurk, who goes around the outside line and uses the DRS to his absolute advantage. The detection zone was just a little bit too early for Ethan Shackleton. And despite the fact the move on his very misfortunate teammate is going to be a pretty easy one, I'm afraid it means that Aaron McGurk is able to find his way through and get up into second position. So what a dramatic change in proceedings we've had here, with Wongsawat Raveesri now unleashed 4.2 seconds in the lead of the race. And by the way, I'm not sure if even Lewis Smith has returned just yet by the looks of things. And I'm trying to eyeball this with the driving style by the way the ERS is being used, by how smooth the driving is. I don't believe this is Lewis Smith at the wheel of that car, as Michael Towers gets another 3-second time penalty. So frustrating for both of them, as now Lewis Smith is back into the server, so he'll be back into the race shortly. And as Ethan Shackleton all over the back looks to save something for Ferrari here, as we can ride on board with him. DRS now available. Aaron McGurk not with a great amount of straight line speed in comparison. And down the inside line goes Ethan Shackleton into second at spot. Really now needs to start to take a chunk out of the lap times of Wongsawat Raveesri, which should be potentially doable if they can work together, but I don't think they're too keen to do that, as by the way, Aaron McGurk didn't spot it, made a bit of a mistake out of Tamburello, and that has allowed a few attempts to open up. Senkovan now overtaken by Kenneth Salish. Goes from bad to worse. Wouldn't be surprised if he's flicked the stream up onto his screen to try and see what's going on. And I'm afraid to say it's pretty difficult viewing for both of our disconnectors in this one. Lewis Smith being another one, but I believe he is now back at the wheel of that car. Not too sure, quite tricky to tell. Lewis Smith back at the wheel of that one. As now Carl Stewart Woodard gets past Andreas Senkovan again, who, considering the fact he's typing in Discord, I don't think he's driving anytime soon. I think he's really struggling with potentially the servers. They can be a little bit precarious at times, through no fault of the league's own. Of course, it's all down to the gods that be, the gods at EA, I should say. He's using a bit of DRS. Is Aaron McGurk, who's the driver we're riding on board with here on lap 10 of 32 around Imola. Desperately trying to chase after Ethan Shackleton after being a little bit slower throughout the course of the day. Take a look at the winners or losers. At this point, Wongsawat Raveesri holding on to his pole position pretty comfortably. He's now got Connor Stewart-Woodard ahead of him. Yellow flags in sector 3 is the McLaren, just letting him through as Andreas Senkovan gets back into the lobby. So now from 7th position, 5 places down from where he started very shortly. Andreas Senkovan will be back at the wheel of his Ferrari and attempting to do the impossible. 9-lap-old mediums. We're not too far away from that pit window. AWS predicted about lap 9, so a couple of laps on from that already. Wondering if Wongsawat Raveesri just sees the sense in pitting now. He'll be out in traffic, I would imagine. Actually, potentially not. He might just come out behind Andreas Senkovan, I think, which could benefit Andreas Senkovan more than anything, as he can start defending, couldn't he? Of course. Interesting strategy game as Michael Towers into the pit straight away. Excuse me, it's Andreas Senkovan straight into the pits. As I try and get a shot of him as he makes his way now out of the pit lane. Hard tyres on the Ferrari. Problem is now for Andreas Senkovan, he disconnected at just the wrong time. If you disconnected maybe a few laps earlier, you can get back in and hold out for a safety car, but unfortunately that's not how it's worked. And now he is the first that is forced to pit. Aaron McGurk still pressuring Ethan Shackleton as they make their way out of the final corner. He's got a very, very good drive, and suddenly, for the first time in a few laps, the Williams is looking very, very threatening indeed, and he goes to the inside line again. There's no defence available to Ethan Shackleton, I should say. And into turn 1, Aaron McGurk does level the playing field. Oh no, levels the playing field and takes himself out of the playing field onto the grass on the left-hand side, and that is that for that battle, at least for the next couple of laps, as Aaron McGurk finds out that the medium tyres 12 laps into the race don't quite have as much grip as they did 10 laps ago, and he flies himself off the road. The thing is, something that I've noticed particularly, is that the debris on the tyres is a lot more aggressive this game than it has been in previous games. So it will take a couple of corners for Aaron McGurk to really be able to push that car once more. As second time penalty has gone out to Ethan Shackleton, so at the moment looks like it will be so close for Aaron McGurk as he tries to get himself back into contention. So in effect, Raveesri has a 12-second lead at this point in the race. And Shackleton becomes a bit of a roadblock for Aaron McGurk to try and make his way through. So disappointing what happened there with Lewis Smith, with Andreas Senkovan. They are now all pretty much together as we ride on board with a man who's really had this race taken away from him as well. It's Aaron Saka, of course. But the battle will continue between the Alpine of Lewis Smith and Andreas Senkovan. They're 18 seconds separated at the moment, so the battle might be a little bit of a ways away. If there's a safety car, they'll be right back next to each other. This man, though, so far, completely plain sailing at the top of the order, but Andreas Senkovan just set the fastest lap of the race, so he's proved that he's got plenty of pace in that motor. 27 seconds behind Carl Stewart-Woodard, and with a pit stop in hand, if he can gain literally about 2 seconds, he'll be right back on the tail of that Alpine by the time he makes his way out of the pit lane. The pit lane is so long here, and the pit speed is so slow, that it is about 25, 26 seconds from what I know. It's the pit delta here. Here's Wongsawat Raveesri into the pit lane. Set of hard tyres certainly being put on to the Haas. The better tyre here, it has to be said. That medium stint being a little bit of a slugfest to just get it out of the way. He will emerge ahead, by the looks of things, of Andreas Senkovan. And pretty comfortably ahead. You can see that gap on your screen. The white dot making its way into Tamburello is Wongsawat Raveesri. And then Andreas Senkovan, of course, is this driver here going through the final few corners. So it translates to just about 24 seconds, I believe, between what will be, at the moment, first and second. That can't be right, surely. 23 seconds. And, oh yeah, that is the case. So, all of a sudden, Andreas Senkovan is going to have the opportunity to put the pressure on Kenneth Salish and Aaron McGurk. However, I think he's going to be a little bit of a ways ahead of Ethan Shackleton, his teammate, is going to be a little bit of ways ahead of him as you see the Sauber of Aaron McGurk getting out of the way. He's been lapsed into the pits. Comes the other Ferrari to consider the gap to the leader. 41 seconds for Senkovan, so he won't quite be challenging. But now we see where Ethan Shackleton re-emerges. Is the overcut going to work out for him? By the looks of things, not quite, because there goes Wongsawat Raveesri comfortably into the lead as Aaron McGurk comes into the pit lane as well. Kenneth Salish assumes the lead of the race and will come out just a couple of seconds ahead of Andreas Senkovan. And has Senkovan used his tyre advantage slightly too early here? That's my next question. Because, of course, his tyres have done 4 laps longer than everyone else's, and the tyre drop-up, we know from Owen's contribution earlier on, is pretty significant, as there is a battle, and it's a battle between Michael Towers and Carl Stewart Woodard as they go out of Tamburello. Follows in the slipstream. Wouldn't be surprised if Kyle has an opportunity to have another go at the Toro Rosso. But at the moment, has been a relatively quiet race for him. His teammate is about 20 seconds behind at the moment, is Lewis Smith, all through no real fault of his own. Into the pit lane comes Kenneth Salish then, and that'll be everyone having completed their stops, with the exception of Aaron Saka, who's really struggling at the back of the field, as Wongsawat Raveesri goes back to normal running and sets the fastest lap of the race, 1:16.5. So that is very, very quick from Wongsawat Raveesri. Ethan Shackleton gets ahead of Kenneth Salish, but where is Aaron McGurk? He's about 2 seconds behind. Another penalty for Kyle, proving how tricky it is around this course. Andreas Senkovan is currently 3 seconds behind Kenneth Salish, so this isn't the end of the world for him at this stage. 4th position still very much possible, and when we consider time penalties, which at the moment, as if I cycle through to the correct one, this is how they look. He's actually only 6 seconds behind Aaron McGurk, which isn't huge if you think about it. 9 seconds worth of penalties as well for Ethan Shackleton. Just struggling with these strict track limit rules. As Andreas Senkovan, we follow his progress. 12 seconds from Michael Towers behind as well. So mental maths is going to be required later on into the race. Try and figure out where on earth everybody's going to end up once those penalties are actually applied. The entire field now, with the exception of Aaron Saka, on those hard tyres. And actually, Aaron might have just come out the pits, and he has. So he's onto hard tyres as well now. Hoping really for a safety car, you'd imagine, as another penalty comes in for Aaron McGurk, which now actually means it's just 3 seconds between himself and Andreas Senkovan. So the podium is back on for the Ferrari driver. As we follow our race leader. Wouldn't quite be the Grand Slam, the first Grand Slam we'd have seen this season. But it will be pretty much everything else ticked off in the Grand Slam, apart from having led every lap. Of course, pit just a lap too late, a lap too early to have led every single lap. But we keep an eye on Andreas Senkovan because he's taken a chunk out of Aaron McGurk and is within the next couple of laps going to be within DRS range. And that's a hugely, hugely important milestone in this race. He is already ahead, but has got about 10 seconds as it stands to Aaron McGurk in second position. Lewis Smith gets his second time penalty of the day, actually. But of course, Kenneth Salish is ahead. Aaron McGurk in third position. If they want to secure this podium, Kenneth Salish needs to make sure that he defends pretty hard from, in terms of as a team, from Andreas Senkovan. Because if he doesn't defend hard, then all of a sudden it's going to look to be a very, very straightforward task in the last the last 15, 16 laps of this race for Andreas Senkovan to mount a challenge to get just within that range of that 6 seconds that he needs. He's already very, very close. It's 9, so it's gone down even more. And this lap, he's going to be within DRS range. So he's within DRS range of the Williams. What's his battery looking like? Pretty good. So it's licensed to go for Andreas Senkovan. He makes a little bit of a mistake. That'll take him out of DRS range, but it will be so close as they make their way to the detection zone. I think he'll just about get it, and he does. So, Andreas Senkovan out of the final corner will go into turn 1 for the first time in a few laps with a reasonable chance of making an on-track overtake, and that is a very exciting prospect for him. But this DRS on this particular lap will just serve to catch him up a little bit to Kenneth Salish, who I wouldn't be surprised if he did defend very, very hard. Again, it's within his best interests. His teammate is so far ahead that to play the team game, if he can just hold up, potentially for 3 laps here, Andreas Senkovan, then that might just be what is needed. As you can see, 10 seconds exactly between Senkovan and Aaron McGurk. -6 from that means 4 seconds to catch up before the end of this race, and maybe 3 laps of defending will just give Aaron McGurk the breathing room he needs. As on board with Senkovan, who despite catching up is saving ERS and saving ERS. He's got no deployment. Very briefly there, as another time penalty comes in for Aaron McGurk. That is a massive, massive moment in the race, as now Senkovan is within the range of the podium. Just needs to get past now and secure it to give himself the margin if he gets any penalty of his own. Plenty of ERS. He has saved very, very smartly. And with hot lap mode deployed, expect all the powers of that Ferrari to be used to get past the Williams of Kenneth Salish. That's exactly what's happened, and what's happened here is one of the Alpines gone around. No, they haven't. It's Aaron McGurk has gone around and takes out his teammate as well. It's a safety car. And Aaron McGurk spins around, gets himself back going into the path of his teammate, whose front wing is lost. Andreas Senkovan receives a 10-second time penalty for cutting the circuit, I believe, but he was in truth not in control of his car. As Lewis Smith has disconnected once again. But with 12 laps to go in this race, it sparks life once again. And Wongsawat Raveesri immediately in to the pit lane. Another set of medium tyres, I'm sure. Will this force everyone else to follow suit? Let's take a look at the tyre situation. Everyone with one stop on hard tyres, and it's medium tyres for Wongsawat Raveesri. That is the sensible call. And he's followed in by Ethan Shackleton. Senkovan now has his hand forced. He's got to follow in. And now the game will ask him if he wants to serve his time penalties here. My suggestion, having only seen the back end of that incident, is that actually, as the Ferrari's double stack, it's a slow stop because of that. No, it's a slow stop because he's serving his time penalties. All 10 of them, though. Let's wait and see. It's been longer than 5. So that's time penalties wiped for Andreas Senkovan. He's now behind a couple of drivers, which is frustrating for him, as Lewis Smith, his AI at least, stays out. So lots of work for Andreas Senkovan now to do. I don't think he wanted to serve those time penalties. He has now served them. At least 5 of them. No, he served all of them. But I fancy that would have been removed by the stewards anyway for that. So this is interesting, as Aaron McGurk is saying that he thought ghosting was on. So what in effect has happened there is he hasn't, I don't want to say bothered, that would be very harsh, but he's not checked over his shoulder, made sure that someone's not there. And just because he assumed the game would let him do it. Now the lights are out on the safety car as Lewis Smith rejoins, happy to see himself in 3rd position, but not with the greatest of tyre wear. Lights are out on the safety car. I don't think that means that we're going to be in this lap. The field isn't quite bunched up enough for that, I wouldn't have thought. On board with race leader. Winner of 2 of our 3 races so far, looking to make it a 3rd. Championship leader as well, of course, is Wongsawat Raveesri. And Aaron McGurk says ghosting is definitely not on in the YouTube chat. Well, the more you know, Aaron. Andreas Senkovan then has been the storyline of the race really so far. And look at the time penalties ahead of him. 12 for Ethan, 15 for Michael Towers. Lewis Smith on 6. Carl Stewart Woodard on 6 as well. So as it stands, there's a 2nd position in it, as this is more drama. As Aaron McGurk is telling me that Wongsawat Raveesri is disconnected from the session. I didn't see the notification pop on my screen. I was monitoring the YouTube chat slightly, but that could change the race. It hasn't, because he's got himself back in, scrambled himself back in. What a nervy moment for Wongsawat Raveesri. You can see the snap of the steering wheel. That's him taking back over. Everyone just experiencing a few troubles with the servers this evening. Watching the Almost Pro Championship. And the safety car is in this lap. We've got 9 runners still standing for the last 10 laps of this race around Imola. Expect it to fly by. It is just over about 12 minutes worth of racing. And there's 2 men we keep an eye on at the moment. Wongsawat Raveesri, Andreas Senkovan, both of them within realistic shots of being 1st and 2nd in this one. Ethan Shackleton, his job, make life as difficult as possible for the Haas just ahead of him. Give his teammate an opportunity to win this race. It's up to the Haas as to when we go back racing. Green flag is in the air, and it is the restart for Wongsawat Raveesri. He gets it almost perfect. Jumping the start immediately is Carl Stewart Woodard, who gets himself ahead of Michael Towers. A bit of back market traffic involved as well, as the McLaren is involved. Off to the right-hand side goes the Sauber of Aaron Saka, as Michael Towers is in to 3rd position. Very briefly, it's now to the outside line goes Carl Stewart Woodard. Doesn't really want to get involved with battling that isn't really his to get involved in from his perspective, as we see the tyre situation. Everyone apart from Lewis Smith on medium tyres now. Lewis was disconnected. He didn't have the chance to make the call, so his 4th position might be short-lived. He disconnected earlier on. That's why he's so far down low. and has now let Andreas Senkovan through. So a nice little bit of sportsmanship there between those two drivers. Knows it's not his race, knows he's just trying to desperately hold on is Lewis Smith, and he's allowed Andreas Senkovan, the faster driver on those tyres, through for his troubles. We look back at the penalty situation because we know all of the drivers that are in with a chance of winning this race are on the same tyres now. And already 1.5 seconds between Wongsawat Raveesri and Ethan Shackleton, but he'll be hoping his disconnect issues don't rear their ugly head once again. Ethan Shackleton not exactly playing the game of make it as difficult as possible for his teammate, for Wongsawat Raveesri I should say, as effectively as he would have hoped. He's got the Toro Rosso just behind with no DRS to play with, as Andreas Senkovan looks over his shoulder to see Lewis Smith battling with Kenneth Salish around the outside line. He goes all the way around the outside, but Tom Morello's such a difficult place to overtake on, and Kenneth Salish on brand new soft tyres is not going to have an issue with that, but expect them to fall off towards the end of this race. Those soft tyres, certainly a very bold call at this stage. Mediums seeming to be the preferred option for the majority of the field, and to be honest with you, I think the correct call, shall we say, is here is a battle for third position on track with Andreas Senkovan, who did disconnect himself earlier on in the race, then got 10 seconds worth of time penalties, would be battling for the race lead without that 10-second time penalty. That's been served, that's been chalked off. He can now battle for that third position on track, knowing full well that actually, as it stands, he's got second position on a wrap. But I want to do it on track. There's potential those penalties get wiped off. So if you do it on track, then those penalties don't have any effect whatsoever as far as you're concerned. And through the final few corners, he goes so much tidier than Michael Towers, who's defending for what would be his first podium in the league this season. DRS, ERS available for Andreas Senkovan, and the man chasing after the championship lead gets through on the Toro Rosso very, very easily indeed with that DRS, with that ERS, and into turn one he goes pretty safely. So Kenneth Salish now gets himself past Carl Stewart-Woodard, and the penalty situation very messy between the two of them, it has to be said. 9 for Kyle, 3 for Kenneth, and I think Kyle will just be sitting in here hoping that Kenneth's tyres do fall off a little bit later on in this race, which is going to happen. We've got about 8 laps to go in at this one. This is Aaron Sackett, who is a lap down, I believe, trying to battle with Lewis Smith, who again he's a lap down on. Doesn't really want to cause him too many problems, as Andreas Senkovan now looks to chase after his teammate. If there was ever an opportunity for team orders, you'd expect it to be now. Makes no sense for Ethan Shackleton to defend this. In fact, makes no sense for Ethan Shackleton to not just slow down and allow his teammate to get through, albeit with a bit of DRS to help him. 1.5 seconds between himself and the race leader, so he's keeping pace with our race leader, Wongsawat Raveesri. So surely just tow his teammate along as Andreas Senkovan sets the fastest lap of the race, 1:15.9. So Wongsawat Raveesri has a bit of a chase scene on here. It's effectively first and second because we know Ethan Shackleton isn't going to put up a fight. So the Ferrari 2-3 turns into Andreas Senkovan effectively chasing after for the lead of the race regardless. We've got yellow flags in sector 1 as that is Kenneth Salish. He's spun around again. This time front wing remains intact. He was caught up with his teammates earlier on, of course, and that caused the first safety car. However, no safety car this time by no debris, as there goes the Ferrari team orders. Andreas Senkovan, 3.3 seconds. That's the equation. It might be 5 tenths of a second because, of course, everyone walking a tightrope with regards to the penalties in this race. Wongsawat Raveesri, no doubt, will be one of them. So he'll be hoping he doesn't get any more warnings in the next 4 or 5 laps or so. That has got to be the play, really, because he knows that lapping as he's lapping, it's not going to be a major concern. Let's do a little bit of maths here as Raveesri makes his way out of the final corner. What are his lap times? Looks to be in the 15s. It is a 16.0. That is actually a personal best, and it's a 17.0 for Andreas Senkovan. So he's a second slower at the moment, but he was in that traffic of his teammate. Now we see what he can truly do in the late stages of this race, as no significant tyre advantage over Wongsawat Raveesri. Has to be on pure pace here. Already gained a bit in the first few corners. There's yellow flags at the final corner. Going to be Connor Stewart-Woodard Gets himself back going again. No chance for a safety car there. 2.9 seconds now. So it's just right on board with Andreas Senkovan. He needs to be careful not to use too much of his ERS. You can very easily fall foul of doing that, but he has no reason to not push it. If he gets a time penalty, he gets a time penalty. Fourth place has got 18 seconds worth of them for a start, so it doesn't really matter to him. Everyone else behind him has got a time penalty, so if he gets one, it isn't a massive deal. However, getting within DRS range of Wongsawat Raveesri would be a massive deal, and you can see that Haas just ahead of him. You can see him reeling in every single corner. 2.6 this time by Wongsawat Raveesri across the line. 1:17.8, so he's losing time. 1:16.7, a tenth of a second taken out of Wongsawat Raveesri in just a single lap for Andreas Senkovan. His teammates, not a problem. The teammates will be teammates. And one mistake for Wongsawat Raveesri would bring Andreas Senkovan back in to the equation. A penalty, which is so easy to gain here at Imola, for Wongsawat Raveesri would gift this race win to the Ferrari, but this lap he seemed to keep it a little bit more collected. This is basically elbows out, full push for both of these drivers, and I think Raveesri's just been a little bit faster throughout the course of this race. Throughout the course of this lap, I should say. Through Varianta Alta for the 28th time. Just the 4 laps to go as they make their way to the line. And if I'm Andreas Senkovan, I'm thinking 3 laps to get within DRS, 1 lap to go for it. 1.7 seconds to get to that first mark. 2 seconds really, as he gains another 10th this lap. He's a little bit slower, trying to not use all of those tyres. His ERS situation isn't amazing either, as he uses full hot lap mode down the straight. Just needs to be careful with his saving here. They know more about it than I do. 1.5 seconds is the gap to getting into DRS range for Andreas Senkovan. And that's the primary objective at this point in the race. Look at the penalty situation, though. He doesn't need to worry about anyone behind him, as it's Michael Towers, close to racking up 30 seconds worth of penalties. 21 seconds. 7 different time penalties. All for track limits. Another 10th of a second has been taken out so far in this lap, as Raveesri's tyres start to give in just a little bit, but as bad as his tyres might be, Senkovan's tyres will be under that strain as well. So it's all down to the driver. It'll be 1.2 seconds out of DRS for Andreas Senkovan at the line, as he gains another 4 tenths on this lap. But at this current rate of catching, it's not quite going to be enough. He needs just 1 lap where he takes 6-7 tenths of a second out of his rival. And at the moment, that's not happening, as Lewis Smith gets a 3-second time penalty. Thought that was Wongsawat Raveesri for a moment there. Now look at this. And this is another big, not turning point, but a big consideration in this race. That McLaren is ahead of Raveesri. Now, as we have yellow flags, that is Kenneth Salish, if I am not mistaken. No, it's not. Who's that? That's Lewis Smith, who's made a hash of things. Gets himself back going. Well, that McLaren is, with 2.5 laps to go in the race, is going to just about be within DRS range of, at current pace, of Wongsawat Raveesri into the final laps. That maybe brings Andreas Senkovan out of the equation again with that DRS. 2.1 seconds now in between our top 2. And just the 2 laps to go, I should say. So Raveesri makes his way out of the final corner. He's lost another couple of tenths of a second this lap, but he won't care about that. 1:17.1, that is incredible pace at the moment. 1:17.1, they're matching each other. And into the penultimate lap of the race, that McLaren might just save the day for Wongsawat Raveesri, as he'll probably get DRS into the final lap. Andreas Senkovan has thrown pretty much everything at this final stint. The safety car came in at a very, very favourable time for him. And he made light work of getting back into second position. But right now he's losing time, and I think he knows. Too little, too late, really. Unless Raveesri gets a penalty on the final lap of the race, which you wouldn't expect him to do. He's a very, very talented driver. And he hasn't got that many warnings throughout this race either, as they go through Ryan to Alta for the penultimate time in this one. Raveesri so far away from track limits. He's gained 5/10 on this lap alone. And Andreas Senkovan a little bit exasperated. Those 2.5 seconds easily were lost during that period that he was out of the game. And on to the final lap goes to Wongsawat Raveesri. Got the McLaren for support if he does need a bit of help from DRS. But at the moment, he hasn't needed that all race long. We're on the final lap here at Imola. Ferrari looking to secure a podium lockout and potentially the lead of the championship as well. Mistake from Raveesri as the McLaren just almost spins in front of him. We'll give Senkovan about a 10th, but a 10th at this stage probably not going to be enough. Through Acqua Minerale, one of the more tricky corners on the circuit, never quite on camber, especially on 10-lap old medium tyres. Through Ryan to Alta now goes Wongsawat Raveesri. He won last time out with a dramatic as, oh dear, there goes Ethan Shackleton off the racetrack. It won't matter. He's got the podium secured anyway. Had to get a bit of a move on in Shanghai last week, but this week he has dominated. A late stint from Andreas Senkovan is weathered perfectly for Wongsawat Raveesri, who takes his second victory in a row. He secures his championship lead. Ferrari take the constructors, however, and as we head into the sprint weekend next time out, it's certainly an interesting championship battle unfolding here. The rest of the podium made up by Ethan Shackleton, of course. Michael Towers with a current season best fourth, but it will turn, I'm sure, into fifth. It won't. He actually, despite having 21 seconds of penalty, stays in fourth position. Kenneth Salishkin sixth, and then Lewis Smith in seventh position, but still a little bit of ways to go before he crosses the line. He's just been driving for pride, really. He knows he had the pace to at least be within the top sort of 5 or so of this race, and has had to settle for 7th, as I said, through no real fault of his own, as our other two drivers have now crossed the line. There we go, confirmation of Lewis Smith's 7th position. Confirmation of your results coming up shortly. The driver of the day is Carl Stewart Woodard, which I don't think it actually is necessarily incorrect. He drove very, very well throughout the course of this one. So, round 4 of the Almost Pro Championship, won by Wongsawat Raveesri once again. Second in a row. 3 of 4 races he's taken victory in. You can't fault that kind of form. Whereas Senkovan proved to be very much in it. This was it going in. This was championship standings going into it. So there's 21 points between them. Not a long season. Not a long season at all. Confirmation of your results then. We had 9 drivers finish in the end, I should say. And it's Wongsawat Raveesri top of all of them. Andreas Senkovan ahead of Ethan Shackleton, his teammate Michael Towers with a season best 4th. Then it is Carl Stewart Woodard in 5th position. Kenneth Salishk in 6th. Lewis Smith in 7th. Aaron Saka 8th. And then your final runner was Connor Stewart Woodward in 9th position. So, just before it kicks me out of the lobby, we can make our way back to our title card here. Ready for a couple of interviews, hopefully. We'll tell everyone. just telling everyone, one-man band as you see at the moment. So just telling everyone that they are more than welcome to jump in for an interview if they would like one. But again, a very interesting race over there. I want to have a quick look at the calendar as we head through next week into Austria, which should be an interesting one. That's a sprint weekend, and the way that works is we'll be on air here an hour earlier than we were today. So an hour earlier, and then we'll have a little bit of a break in between this race and the actual race, which will be a little bit afterwards at the normal 8:30. So if you're any interested in the 8:30, join us at 8:30. So Ethan Shackleton, I believe, is joining us. Ethan, welcome to the stream. That was an interesting race. I think time penalty is very much the deciding factor in the end, but you worked your teammate well, and I believe you're into the Constructors' Championship lead.
Oh, that's great news. Thank you. I wasn't aware we were actually in the constructors lead now. I thought we were a bit too far behind, so that's great. Unfortunately, I really struggle with the track limits. I'm not sure what corner it is. It's the one before Aqua Minerale. There's a horrible shade on it, and I couldn't see the apex. Probably about half of them were there.
Yeah, I think that corner catches a lot of people out. I know when I run Imola, you end up getting about 8 track limit penalties just from that corner alone. But overall, a positive result, and on to the podium again. There are some really, really fast drivers in this league, though, and I suppose you must feel like they're breathing down your neck at all times.
Yeah, my pace today was better than previous races, so I'm happy on that front. But I did not have, I couldn't challenge the top two. They were even without penalties. Really, I wasn't on their level today.
Yeah, and however, you play a nice little wingman role with Andreas Senkman. I saw you let him through towards the end. So congratulations again, and lots of progress made in the Teams Championship. We'll speak to you next week.
Thank you very much, and thanks for your commentary as well. It's brilliant.
Thank you, Ethan. We'll speak to him soon. Regular of the stream then is Kyle. Hello, Kyle. Welcome along to the stream again. I've said it to Ethan. I'll say it to you. That was a race that was dictated by the track limits, I think, a little bit.
I think we all knew that coming into it, to be fair. We was all a bit like, just keep it clean and you might actually do well. And then Lewis, obviously me and Lewis are in the party chat, and yeah, that was kind of his strategy. And he even obviously he dropped out a couple of times, which kind of helped him get less penalties. So yeah, although his AI did completely miss the pit lane, so he obviously had to box towards the end. But yeah, I'm not too pleased. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice. It was going pretty well, and then I don't know if you where you were on the last lap, probably following the leader, I imagine, because that's where the action's happening. But I was well within Michael Towers' his penalty window, well within it, about 2 seconds within it, and then I almost lost the back end. Oh, I lost the back end. Sorry, almost spanned, saved the spin, but unfortunately that then dropped me outside of his penalty window, which meant I didn't get his fourth position, which has upset me quite a bit. I'll be honest with you, Tom. I'm quite upset about it.
Yeah, we to be honest with you, we were looking at that, and I kind of called across the line. Obviously, we were focused on the gap at the lead and making sure Wongsawat didn't get any penalties.
Yeah.
And I almost called straight away saying, Michael Towers must finish in 5th position. Then he held on to his 4th.
Right.
So it's nice to get a bit of closure on that.
Really, really frustrating, because it was like I said to Lewis, I said, look, I'm going to go quiet. I'm going to concentrate, not get any penalties, and make sure I finish in 4th position. All going so well, and then on the last lap, I just lost the back end somewhere I've not lost it all race. So it just where that came from, I couldn't tell you. But yeah, that has honestly, as you can imagine, very much frustrated me. I mean, look, it's only 2 points. Is it 2 points? Yeah, it's 2 points. Yeah, but with this championship being as tight as that would have been very helpful, very useful. So not pleased. I'm not going to go to bed very, very happy tonight. I'll be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. But 2 points, 2 points. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll speak to you very soon.
Amazing. Thanks, Tom.
So we're going to drag in Carl's teammate, Lewis Smith. Lewis, welcome to the stream. I mean, you only drove about half of the race but you had quite a lot of pace in the half you did drive.
Yeah, not. I don't think obviously the pace of the two in front, they were amazing race for both of those guys. Obviously frustrating race for myself, but you know, we still scored points at the end of the day, so we can't complain too much. But yeah, I'll definitely on to next weekend, and well, not next weekend, next week, sorry. But yeah.
Yeah, lovely. You clearly had the pace today as well. I think is the important thing here. You were there and thereabouts in qualifying, maybe not quite on the pace of the very, very top guys, but you were right on the pace. We've seen throughout the season that you've been there and thereabouts. It must have been a little bit frustrating. It just didn't come together.
Yeah, it was for sure because obviously trying to defend the title, obviously, and you can only do that with consistency. And obviously, in previous weekends we've been there or thereabouts, finishing on the podium and whatnot. But yeah, it happens. Obviously, races like this where you have problems, and obviously this race was not really anything I could do, but we did literally just have to move on to the next one. That's the best thing we can do, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, commiseration slightly. Still some championship points on the board, and we'll see you next week, hopefully on the podium.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Cheers, Lewis. We'll speak to Lewis soon. Hopefully speak to the rest of our drivers soon as well. But for myself, Tom, Dillon, Owen, Boldero joined us at the start of the stream. We're wishing him well with all of his internet issues and things like that. But he'll be back next week, as will I, slightly early at 7:30 next week. Thank you all very much for watching. We'll see you all later. Good night for now.
We're underway and racing. Stay on the brakes, goodness me, what a launch! The outside of turn 1 and takes the